How's it going, everybody? My name is Artorigold, and today I want to talk about the state of Overwatch. There was recently a pretty popular video made by Seagull, which, was pretty cool. I really enjoyed listening to it, and it was nice to hear his perspective. I think Seagull is one of the nicest guys in the Overwatch scene, and he's always amazing to just listen to his opinions and watch his gameplay on stream and all that stuff. But anyways, he recently came out with a video talking about his opinions on the state of Overwatch. And the reason why I really want to take a look at it is because he talks about a lot of issues, but he doesn't really give any solutions. He has a lot of opinions to it, so I think this video is also going to be mostly just my opinions. But what I want to do mostly is just kind of TLDR, just take that video to the key points and then offer what I would consider to be some pretty decent solutions that could help the state of the game and how it is right now. I think at the end of the day, we all love Overwatch a lot. We all have our own opinions. So make sure to reach out in the comment section what you think. I'll be glad to go over and we can have a little conversation between it. But anyways, I'm going to go into what Seagull says. So the first thing that Seagull mentions is that good games are really good and bad games are really bad. In other words, he means there's not really an in-between. Either it's really amazing or it's a really bad experience, and it's kind of a coin flip, and he always asks himself, is it worth that frustration? I think the reason why he feels this way is a few different reasons. He just came back from the Overwatch League, and in that scene, and I think he even says this himself, he's in this little bubble where he's playing with all these pro players and he's playing the game at a completely different level. And then all of a sudden, he comes back, he's streaming, and all he's doing is experiencing the pain and the nightmare of solo queue ladder experience. Something that I think we all know probably much better than him, and he hasn't really experienced until just recently, and he started doing it a whole lot because he's streaming now, and that's one of the reasons why he feels this way, because he's feeling what we all feel. We've experienced this probably more than he has. I mean, I don't know about you guys, I'm on that gold border right now, and he hasn't even hit the silver border. So yeah, really, as that sounds, I think we all been playing solo queue ladder a lot more than these professional players. They're kind of in this weird little bubble where they're all just on 6v6 scrimming all the time, and they don't really play on the ladder as much as the rest of us. At least that's Seagull's case, I would think. So anyways, some of the things that he's noticing is that the new characters that are coming out are hard counters. One of the things he mentions is why these games are good or bad is because these characters are just completely hard countering other characters, such as Brig countering Tracer. Even with the Brig nerfs, I think that's still very relevant. Even though you're not one-shotting a Tracer, you still very much so will counter the Tracer. And one of the problems about solo queue ranked is you can't control what your teammates are going to do. If your teammate decides he wants to play Tracer into a Brig, then he's gonna do that. What are you gonna do? You can't swap at the character choice for him. You could try to ask nicely, but guess what? He's not in voice chat, and he's not responding to the text messages either, so what do? You can't really do anything. He's gonna play Tracer no matter what, and he's gonna get countered into Brig. And this is a big problem with maybe the character design, and this could also be some other things too, but let's go into the hard counterpoint. So basically he gives the example of Pharah versus Hitscan, right? You have all these supposed counters against Pharah, such as Widowmaker, soon-to-be Ashe, McCree, Soldier, etc., etc. And even though those characters counter Pharah on paper, Pharah has a lot of ways to outplay those Hitscans. She can play around corners, play around her line of sight, be really evasive, and at the same time, still be able to do damage and ignore the hit scan, or even find an opportunity where she's able to close that gap and use her E to get really close to the hit scan and then kill them off before they even get to see the Pharah. And that's kind of more of what I would call a soft counter. Although on paper there's a hit scan player who can counter you because you're out in the air and you're very vulnerable, there's still a way to outplay or outskill the other person. And this is what the argument that he's trying to present is that Brig is basically a hard counter to Tracer, and there's really no room for a Tracer to outplay a Brig. I mean, you could probably just sit around and waste a lot of time and try to get close to a Brig to do damage to her, but she has a 500 health shield, she has a lot of health herself. It's really difficult for a Tracer to outplay a Brig. It's not impossible, but it's so favorable for Brig in that matchup, the outskill has to be just, it's very rare. It's not going to happen, especially depending at what rank you're at. I mean, the Brig is generally going to have a much better time. And then he gets into how the game is kind of like rock, paper, scissors, and if you have the enemy team hard countering your characters and your team, then you kind of just lose the game, and that's where that coin flip comes from. There's really nothing you can do because your teammate, if they don't want to swap, then they're not going to swap. I mean, you can't force that. So here's some of the things that you could do in a solution to it, but this is really just my opinion, guys. So here you have your options. You either nerf Brig to the point where it's able to counterplay the Tracer, or you buff the Tracer, which makes it so she's not really countered by Brig at all anymore, and then her effectiveness on every other hero is just way too potent. You really don't want that. So what you need to do instead is we say, alright, we nerf Brig, we kind of screwed up with some of these character picks. But what we do is we look towards the future and the future character development, and then maybe try and work around those older characters at a later time. I think the nerfs on Brig are perfectly fine at the moment. I don't think that it's too much of an issue, and the hard counter isn't as hard of a counter, but it's still there. So if you're getting beaten up by a Tracer, you can still go Brig and you'll be fine against her. You'll really have no issues. Even if you can't one-shot the Tracer, you'll still be able to just be fine and be able to do enough damage to her where she's going to back off or recall. So I really don't think there's an issue with that, and it's not much of a hard counter. That's just for that example. But what I'm saying is, for the future, what we can do is make more characters like Ashe. I mean, look at Ashe. She is really acceptable in all forms. She has a really good amount of mechanical skill. She has a lot of outplay potential. She has a lot of damage, and her kit has a little bit of CC. I mean, you have her coach gun that knocks people away from her, but I think it's an acceptable amount of CC. It's not a whole kit designed with all kinds of stuns and knockbacks and hitting people into the air and all that. It's one little knockback, and it's really good for her kit. The way you look at it is, it's basically like your disengage. It's very similar to a Widowmaker. What does Widowmaker have? Long range hit scan damage, and she has her grapple hook for disengage. And the shotgun from Ashe is basically the same thing as grapple hook from Widowmaker. So really what needs to happen is we just need to look forward. We need to make sure that there aren't any more characters that come out that are like Brig. Really tanky, lots of sustain, does a lot of damage, has the potential to one-shot someone. Her ultimate gives permanent armor. I mean, that's kind of insane, but I mean, it's okay. We can work around that. But everything else is just insane. Her kit is just overbearing, especially when she first came out. Trust me, when I played Brig when she first came out, I got on a brand new account, level 25, and I went 33-4, and it was insane. I only lost 4 games as Brig. That's just how broken she was when she came out. Weird flex, but okay. Anyways, back onto the main topic. So what happens because of these issues? This is what Seagull says. Without this outplay potential, it promotes toxicity between teammates because your team could be performing poorly because of this hard counter and not switching. There's really nothing you can do to get them to switch, and because of that, it just gets everybody angry at each other. I mean, how many times has that happened to everybody? I mean, I think everybody here has had a really unfortunate, really unlucky game where you have someone on your team who's just getting hard countered and refuses to swap. I mean, it happens all the time. I don't know why. Maybe it's an ego thing, a pride thing, you know. And maybe that guy, maybe he is doing well. And this is moving on to the next point. You don't know how well your team is doing. So what Seagull is suggesting is that there's no stats or scoreboard, so you don't know if someone on your team is playing poorly or doing really well. Basically, you end up blaming somebody, and you have no idea if it's true or not. You're just going kind of what from you're seeing, from your point of view, and you're not really ever able to tell. I mean, you could call them out and be like, I have gold medals, but really those medals, you know, you could lie about them. How are you gonna, how's anybody gonna know? You know, you could just make something of, I have silver. Who knows? Unless the other guy speaks up, but you know, you could get away with that. Anyways, so Seagull comes from the Team Fortress 2 scene, and I do actually too, and in Team Fortress 2, you hit tab and you get a big scoreboard, and it basically says how many deaths you have, and it says something around your score or your kills, and it kind of just allows people to know if you're doing well or not. Now, I don't think we need a scoreboard. Honestly, I think all we need is to remove private profiles. Personally, I really don't like private profiles. I could see why some people like it, and this might be a little bit biased on my end, but honestly, I have some real grudges to pick with this thing. I think if you get rid of private profiles, it allow people to be like, all right, you know, I have this guy who's a main healer main, and he's on DPS right now, and he's not doing so hot. And you're not able to tell anymore because of private profiles. You don't know what somebody's main is. You don't know who somebody is good at or not, and it really screws things up. I think if you had that private profile off, we could all go back to being like, all right, this guy mains this and this and this, so I can flex and play this role so they can get that role instead, because I'm capable of playing tank and healer. So this guy, I'll let him play healer because all he can do is healer, and maybe our team will start doing better because now he's on a comfort pick or a hero that he does well on, instead of him flexing to a heal or something that he wasn't good at, right? That was something that I really enjoyed about not having private profile. I understand some people like to keep their stats private, and I do understand the benefits of it. For example, I main Zenyatta, and for a while I would keep my Zenyatta profile public, and what would happen? The enemy team, they'd pick Doomfist and Sombra, and they would hard dive and counter me, and I wouldn't be able to stop that onslaught, right? As soon as I put my private profile on, I was able to play Zenyatta and be able to just have nobody counterpick me. They're like, I don't know what this guy plays. What does this guy play? I don't know. So there's kind of a benefit to that, right? If you play a weird character or a weird like one trick and you have private profile on, the enemy team won't counter you. However, if the enemy team is smart, they could just like look at all of your team and be like, all right, this guy plays this and this and this, so let's watch out for this character, or let's go Pharah, they have no hit scan players, right? There's a lot of ways to counterplay that. So private profile kind of does that, but here's a big issue that I had private profile, and I'll try not to get off topic too much, but it enables boosters. I actually have video footage of somebody who was just bragging that he's boosting an account, and he was like, I'm able to get away with it because I'm private profiling. So it was like, oh, I tried to like egg him on a little bit and like, oh, make it public so I can see, and I have screenshots and video footage of it. Maybe I can add it in this video or maybe some other time, I don't know. It might be kind of calling someone out. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get in trouble. But basically, boosters are enabled right now because private profiles are a thing. People are able to just get away and boost as much as they want, and nobody's really ever going to find out. I mean, what's going to happen? He's not going to be in voice chat. He's not going to be in text chat. You can just disable those, and eventually maybe he'll decline an SR, but who's to say that he's not just going to boost again? And it's obvious that these people are boosting because you can really tell that this guy is just not doing well for a Grandmaster player or something, right? You'll see somebody and be like, man, what's going on? I'm just losing and I don't know why. There's no scoreboard, there's no stats, everybody's private profile. You don't know which one of your 6 teammates is the weak link. Is somebody playing a role that they're not good at? Is somebody just not performing well? Do I need to take over? Do I need to ask them if they want to swap? What's the solution? And you don't have that much time to figure it out. Every game of Overwatch is only so much time. So this is my big issue. I think, honestly, we don't need a scoreboard to fix this. I just say remove private profiling again. I think some people would probably be against me in that argument, but really, we're enabling people to get away with boosting right now. There are tons of people who are cheating and paying money for other people to play on other people's accounts just so they can get away with a higher rank. And they're paying money to do that. And that kind of sucks. And also, aimbotters can also get away with it too. One of the best ways to get away with aimbotting is you put yourself on private profile. Now I don't see your weapon accuracy, and I can't call you out on it. And especially if I skip the kill cams or I never get kill cammed by it. Because we all know aimbotters can just toggle that, right? They can, at a click of a button, bam, the aimbot is on or the aimbot is off. And they could put it on for a few kills and then turn it off and be bad. And then when people, like, you know, aren't suspicious or looking at the kill cams anymore, bam, turn it back on, get some kills again, and then turn it off. A really good cheater can get away with that. By looking at somebody's profile and weapon accuracy, you can really kind of pinpoint if they're doing that or not. Anyways, that's my solution to that whole thing. I don't like private profiles. I say get rid of them. Even though I use them myself, I think it would be better for the community if we didn't do it. I just feel like if everybody was able to show off what role or what character that they play on, we're all able to work around that and try to find a team comp that works the best for everybody. But then again, I don't know, maybe there's some good arguments on the other side. Please share that in the comments. I'd love to hear that. Moving on to the next thing, we talk about something that's more of a dead horse that we're kind of just punching in the gut at this point, but the new characters, Doomfist, Hammond, Sombra, they all require help from your team in order to survive. This is a big issue. Seagull brings it up. I also agree with this point. These characters come in, and if you're playing a squishy character like Zenyatta or Ana, there's really nothing you can do except yell for help. Hopefully your teammates can help you, right? I mean, what are the solutions to this? I think these are very obvious, and I think these solutions are coming soon, and they're coming to the PTR, and hopefully they'll go live eventually as well. We either buff the characters that need this help, or we nerf these characters like Doomfist and Sombra. Now, this is something that we're already seeing. We're seeing some pretty good nerfs with Doomfist. I think that's probably the most fair for the top tier level of gameplay. I do think that Hammond is probably at a decent state, but he can get away with a little too much. But the reason why I don't think it's too bad with Hammond is because he is hard countered by Sombra. And one of the things about that goes into the first topic with hard counters, right? But anyways, Sombra also, I think, could use a little bit of a nerf. I think it's kind of insane that her hack is so fast and lasts for like 6 seconds, and that's something he brings up in the video too. It's like 0.6 second cast time, and then you're done for. Like 6 seconds of you being able to do nothing. That's like the easiest and hardest counter to Hammond there is, and there's really nothing you can do about that either. But here's another solution that I think is rather more interesting that other people haven't really been talking about. I think another good way to prevent these things from happening is to add a new character, or rather new characters in general, with more defensive abilities, specifically in mind, things that cancel out CC. And what my mind immediately goes to is more abilities like Zarya's Bubble. Think about it, Zarya's Bubble is huge. I mean, it might not be the most flashy ability, but being able to protect your teammate from these clutch abilities with a bubble is really big brain, and I love it. It takes a lot of skill to use Zarya bubbles, and I think it would be really cool to see more characters like Zarya, things that reward you for saving your team with defensive abilities, right? Zarya gets all that energy charge, which makes her do more damage, so maybe we can add more defensive abilities, and not just with Zarya's regular abilities. I think the game needs more defensive ults. I mean, what do we got? We got Zen and Lucio, that's about it. I mean, do you consider Rally defensive? Kind of, but it's not gonna stop like Dragon Strike, Zarya Graph, right? Like, that's not gonna happen. Zenyatta Transcendence and Lucio Beat are very powerful defensive abilities, but they're also really the only ones in the game. You have Nano Boost, which you can kind of send, like one person gets a defensive reduction, right? But then you look at Nano Boost, right? What are you using that on? Are you using it for the defensive capabilities? Most of the time you're using it for Nano Blade or something. So yeah, I think one of the bigger solutions is maybe just have some new characters with defensive capabilities in mind. Things that maybe can help you survive against a Doomfist one-shot. I mean, I don't know. This is just one man's opinion, but I think defensive ults are lacking. And I mean, if you look at the hero pool, we don't really have a whole lot of supports, and we don't have a whole lot of tanks, and I think we can have characters more like Zarya, or have characters with more defensive ults as well. I think the game is really in due for a new, unique defensive ult. I think that would be really huge, and also that goes into the next issue that Seagull talks about, and that's ultimates are too powerful, and every fight is much easier to win if you're able to get that ult first before the enemy team in the early game. As long as there are no support ults, you basically just win the fight if there's no support ults, and that goes into the same thing. I think we need more defensive ults, and I think they need to be more unique defensive ults as well. Take in consideration Zenyatta's Transcendence. If Genji gets a Nano Blade, a top level Nano Blade Genji user, if he does it right, Zenyatta's Transcendence will not save you. He will kill a squishy person with 200 health with that Nano Blade. Transcendence does not heal through that. So some defensive ults that allow that to not happen would be huge. I even saw something in the comments section that was really cool. So shout out to Nico, Niko, I hope I'm saying that right, but you gave an idea on one of the last videos where you can give Orisa an ultimate where it gives Fortify to everybody. In other words, some sort of ultimate that would give his teammates damage resistance and immunity to CC or stuns. Now I think that's an amazing idea. It doesn't necessarily even have to be for Orisa. You can have some sort of ability similar to that and give it to a new hero. I think giving people the immunity effect to CC would be huge, and that's exactly what I'm talking about with Zarya. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a, straight up healing defensive ult or a shield ult. Make it an ult so everybody gets immune to CC and you can't knock them around or something. That would be really cool. I think more ultimate abilities like that would be really cool to see because it gives more options to survive from characters that we think are overpowered. Getting one shot by a character really sucks, but when there's only 2 characters that stop abilities from just team wiping you, I think there needs to be more of them, and I think that would be a really great solution. Start adding some new supports and tanks that have the ability to save their team. I think that would be an amazing solution. And one of the other things, you could probably just reduce the ult charge. Another argument that he has is he thinks ultimates are just way too powerful, and I think Jane said this very well. You could reduce the ult charge by like 10% so they don't happen quite as often, Or you can remove the passive ult charge completely, meaning that people who still perform well will be rewarded with more ults, and people who aren't performing well will not get as many ult, which can also be a really great way of rewarding everybody too. So I think that's an interesting idea. I actually really like that one. Let me know what you think about the ultimates. I'm really curious to see if you think they are as powerful as they do, or if you think we should just lower the ult charge or generation, or maybe nerf the ultimates. I don't really want to nerf the ultimates. I'm not on that side of the argument. I think ultimates are great. I think we don't have like Mercy rezzing the entire team anymore, so I'm glad we don't have ultimates that powerful. But I do think ultimates need to have a special flashiness to them that are really fun to use and get a lot of kills when you do it. I think that ultimates aren't too overpowered. I think EMP is really overpowered, but really only at the top tier scene. Solo queue experience is completely different. I do think Nano Blade shouldn't kill through people, getting healed by Transcendence, but whatever, that's okay. It takes a lot of skill to do Nano Blade, so maybe it's alright. Maybe I'm a little biased because I like Zenyatta a lot, but whatever. In summary, add more defensive ults, or maybe just remove passive ult charge. I think that would be the better way, and I think it'd be really rewarding for players who do really well, because then you get more ultimates. I think that's a big thing. I would like that, especially because when you look at like Lucio, he has the highest ult generation in the game, which is kind of insane. So overall, Seagull thinks that the game needs help and it needs to be improved, but all of these problems that he mentions, he doesn't really add too many solutions. I think he's more of starting a discussion, a much needed discussion, and I think the Overwatch developers are listening. I mean, they love their community. I think they're listening to us. They don't like the Diablo community, but I think they listen to us at the Overwatch world. They're nerfing Brig, they're nerfing Doomfist, and that's something we've been looking for a long time. It just sucks that they're a little slow with the developments. I mean, I'm sure they're working to make everything perfect behind the scenes. I do have a lot of trust in Jeff Kaplan. I think that he'll bless us with some really good changes in the future, and I really hope the community agrees with them. I think Brig and Doom needed a pretty hard nerf, and some of these solutions I think will be also really good for the game. I mean, Jeff already said the next 6 heroes in development are all tank and supports. I better see a defensive ult in there. We need something. We can't survive on just 2 defensive ults. That's not enough. And I don't think Moira is a defensive ult, by the way. I mean, it's strong, but I don't think Rally, Moira ult, I really don't think the other support ults are just the same as Transcendence and Beat, which are just raw defensive abilities, and that's what we need more in the game. And I think one of the things that we can do, and I think this is great, is we need more heroes like Ashe. Ashe is great. She has a lot of mechanical skill. She's very rewarding to play. The CC is minimal, but also works with her kit. This is how the future of Overwatch should be. Characters like Ashe should be pushed. We need to see characters like this. I am in love with Ashe. I don't know if you guys have played her in Quick Play or not. She's the most fun I've had in a long time with this game. She is crazy fun. Seriously, play Ashe if you haven't. I'm sure you have. But, I mean, anyways, go play her. But I think another thing that we could do, and this is a big one, we can give new characters ultimates that are not too overwhelming. In other words, don't give us a character with ults that just kill or team wipe. Give us maybe an ultimate with a little less, flashiness. Maybe something like Infrared. Look at Widowmaker's ult, for example. It's a very strong ability, but it's an ultimate that also requires game awareness, knowledge, positioning, and raw mechanical skill to utilize correctly. Infrared is extremely, powerful, but people just don't utilize it properly in solo queue. Same thing with things like Genji Blade. I think Genji Blade takes a lot of mechanical skill to use. Compare that to, of course, like High Noon and Visor. They don't really take any skill to use it. You just gotta look about positioning, and that's about it. And, they're kind of bad ultimates right now anyways, but that's not the point. The point is I think having ultimates that require mechanical skill are great. And not even necessarily could be mechanical skill, it could just be game knowledge. Look at Reinhardt. You have Earth Shatter, which is a big impact ult. It's super strong, super powerful. It doesn't really take mechanical skill to use, but it takes game knowledge and mind games to use. You gotta outplay the enemy Reinhardt. Am I gonna shield? Am I gonna flame strike? Am I gonna hammer you? Are you gonna put your shield down? Am I gonna fake the shatter? What am I gonna do? You don't know. We have a lot of outplay potential and mind games with Earth Shatter. Am I gonna go behind the shield? I'm gonna go flank. I'm gonna go position myself in a sneaky spot and hit them when they come move in. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to use that ultimate, and it rewards you with the big impact. And I think ultimates like that are also really good. We want to see ultimates that are rewarding you for using them properly, and then when you do nothing with them, they don't do anything. For example, Diva Bomb, very high reward, you know, if you're really good, if you're like Poco and you just practice bombs all day and positioning those, you can be really huge and you can get a lot of kills with it. Same thing with Earth Shatter. But then you have ultimates like Sombra's EMP. I mean, what does that really take? You just have your ult, you throw a translocator in when the enemy's entirely grouped up, and you get Q. Bam, they're all hacked. And then your team just kills them all. You don't even really need to do that much damage. You hacked everybody. Your job here is done. You're out of there. You did your thing, and now the enemy team is dead. Ultimates like that aren't really that rewarding for a Sombra. I mean, I guess you can try to get as many people as possible, and that's what you're looking to do, but there's not really a whole lot of, like, mechanical skill to it. Compare that to a Zarya Graviton. What does Zarya Graviton have to do compared to Sombra? Zarya has to watch out for Diva mechs because she can defense matrix the Grav and eat it, right? She has to melt the Diva, get the Diva out of mech first, or maybe just wait for the defense matrix to be gone so there's that little window, that little cooldown where you can then use it. She has to look to try and get as many people as possible while managing that, and also watching out for things like Genji trying to deflect it, or maybe even things like Reinhardt using a shield because the Graviton can get stuck on the Reinhardt shield. I mean, there's a lot of things that Zarya has to worry about, so when you get a big Graviton, it's more rewarding. Whereas Sombra, what does she have to worry about? Nothing stops an EMP. In fact, EMP goes through everything. So yeah, that's basically my point. I think ultimate abilities should have a strong impact, but they also take a good amount of skill to use them. I think that would be really important. For example, take Brigitte's ult and compare it to Lucio's ult. What does Lucio have to do with his ult? Lucio has to time it perfectly in order to get the best use out of it. He has to take into consideration the line of sight of everybody. If there's any Winston bubbles or barriers that are going to block things, as well as just, you know, line of sight stuff. And then also, he has to drop the beat without getting stunned or booped or whatever, because it takes a long time to drop that beat. I don't know why it takes so long, but it just seems like forever. I'm sitting here in the air and I'm trying to, you know, drop the beat, and it just feels like forever before it lands, and people are able to stun you, people can kill you, people can block it with the barrier. There's a lot of things that can happen to that ult, and because of that ability, compare that to Brig, who hits Q, bam, I move really fast, I can kill you all, I can catch you all, everybody has armor, and also it's permanent. I'm gonna keep it for the next fight too. And there's really no drawback to using Rally. You can use it you can use it in a fight, after a fight, before the fight, it doesn't matter. There's just this huge difference, and that's why it's so much more rewarding when you actually get a good beat compared to when you do something like Brig ult. That's kind of my point that I'm getting at. So I think ultimates moving forward can even be a little bit less impactful in order not to clog the game with too many flashy abilities, something more like infrared, or make the abilities require some skill to use. That's basically my point here, guys. I think that would be a really cool solution, because really it just feels too easy for Sombra to just go in there and hack everybody and then your team just wins the fight. Especially if you watch like Overwatch World League or the World Cup. I mean, look how many times EMP just instantly wins the fight. There's just no counterplay to it. The most you can do is hide. That's it. You hide. That's how you counter EMP. You just hide. And that sucks. I mean, nobody wants to just hide like that. And that's what you do as Lucio too, because, you know, it takes away all the shields from the beat. So you literally have to just hide and wait and not help your team at all in order for the EMP to drop. And then you drop the beat and hope your team is still alive after that EMP so your beat actually does something. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for this video. I made it a little too long, and I apologize. Thanks for anybody who stuck around. I think Seagull offered some really good problems and points, but didn't really offer any solutions. These are my thoughts on what they could be. They are my opinions. I'd love to hear what you guys think about them, or if you have some of your own opinions or some of your own solutions, or maybe you don't even think these are problems in the first place. I would love to hear what you guys think. Please leave a comment. I would love to read them and respond to as many as possible. Anyways, that's all I have for today, guys. I'll see you guys next time.